Here's a question for you.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's pretend you had never shed hunted before. Like, never did it.
Okay.
What do you think would be the top 3 things you could tell somebody that they should prepare for when they're going to start shed hunting? Like, what are the top 3 things? What do you think they would be?
Well, I already have guys like, I've never found a shed ever before in my life. Like, how did you find a shed? Like, what are they doing? Walking with their eyes closed, talking to their buddies, Snapchatting, not really paying attention where they are, just out in the woods, not looking down the ground. So you gotta look down the ground. You can't just. So that you gotta look.
So number 1 is look. You gotta be ready to look.
Yeah, you gotta look.
We're jumping in deep. Okay, what else do we got? Number 1 is look. What else we got?
2 is look where the deer are. Not where the turkeys are.
So the first one is look, and then the second one is look where the deer are.
Yeah. Not where the turkeys are. Like, if you never see deer where you are, like, no signs of poop, no tracks.
Okay, so would you say that the third one is sign? So the first one is look, the second one is look where deer are, and then poop and tracks, that's called sign, so you'll say sign?
Yeah.
What if I told you I had 3 different complete things that they should prepare for when they're going to go shed hunting for the first time? Would you like to know what those are?
What? Bring snacks.
No.
Have a cup of coffee. Okay. Tell me.
Okay. All right. Here's what I would say.
Okay.
Number 1, if you can do any sort of satellite scouting before you're there, topo, looking at the lay of the land, find those trail ends that lead out to the out of the woods to the field. Try to find that. Look where you're gonna park. See if you can see any elevation changes. Like, just look at it from a top down. Now, if you've never done that before, literally just look around the edges of the field, find out where the corners are, if there's a stream or any variation in topography. Look for those, and start there when you shed hunt. Like, so my number 1 thing would be to simply pull up maps, make sure that it's set so you can actually see.
Okay, but most people, are they hunting public or private?
I'll get there.
So, like, they would probably already know.
Most people, when they go shed hunting, they should go out to public land. And the reason why I say that is if you go out to your private land, you probably have like these honey hole areas where, the deer are yarded up in the winter, and if you have like a food source like grasses coming through early in the season, that the deer are going to be there, and so you could check those areas as long as you stay out of them, like every year, and you could find sheds. But for the most part, people don't have access to. I know I don't to a bunch of wooded property with some evergreens or some cedar sloughs that I can just go walk that are mine. So I have to find them on public land. So a lot of times I'll scout before I get there is what I'm talking about with these topo maps.
So what I've been hearing a lot on the comments is like guys are saying that, oh, on my cameras, the bucks, like I still see bucks. Like, so they're literally just watching their cameras and seeing if the bucks have dropped their antlers.
Yeah.
And they're not actually going out there. So they're only watching the bucks that are on their cameras. Okay, my bucks on my cameras, they still have their antlers. So they're not seeing what else is out there. So,
folks, you stole my number 2. Number 2 is find the groups, your local whitetail groups that are in your area. Most guys, when they start to find sheds, they'll actually post them there. So then you know that you're not going to be going out too early or too late. You can hit it pretty much just right, because most people, when they find sheds, what they want to do, they want to go on social media and brag that they found this giant set. So
yeah,
that's number 2. So first one is topo maps. Second one is join some local groups, whitetails. What do you think number 3 is?
I don't know.
All right, so prepare for being in the woods. And what I mean by that is shed hunting is not a Shed hunting is not an easy thing to do, and it almost you find pride in the miles logged. And so to me, like deer season never ends, right? Like I stay fit enough to where I can go out and I can go 6-10 miles in a day looking for sheds. But not everybody is. And then when they do go out, they don't know the property really well, so they don't dress appropriately. That happens to the best of us.
Me.
Yeah. Rubber boots, right, in the early season when things are thawing. Hikers, if you know you're going to be staying on field edges. A lot of this comes down to if you're frequenting the areas that you're going to go, whether it's public land, private land, whatever, you're going to understand the lay of the land, especially within a county or an area in general. I hunt all over the state of Wisconsin. Depending on which county I'm in, you're going to have different setups for gear. So, number 3 is prepare for the woods that you're going to be in. So, if you know you're going to be in swamps, take some rubber boots. If you know you're going to be doing like the field things and you're going to be walking a bunch, hiker boots. At the end of the day, you got to make sure that your body's ready for something that it's a grind. You got to be ready for those miles burnt. That first day that we shed hunted this year where you found that antler, like I'd say we did an easy 6. My legs were pretty smoked by the time we got to that final area where we found a shed, and it was really early in the season, and we had gone out just because it was nice. We thought we'll give it a go. It's a bit early yet, a couple weeks yet. We hadn't seen anybody really saying that they had found any sheds yet. We just kind of went out, and the whole point of that is to just find some bedding areas in the last snowfall of possibly the year. So we could go back and check them in a couple weeks. But lo and behold, what did we find? We found some beds, found some old rub lines, and we just started to walk them. And what do you know? Miranda found her first shed of the year.
Yeah, it was exciting. Like following that like heavy beat down trail. I was like, all right, this looks really good just walking up to it. And then I think I pulled out my TikTok and I was like filming, but then I like looked and I was like, and I didn't even go up to it. I actually got my TikTok account open and I'm like, you guys, I found one. And I'm like running up to it and like TikTok saw my reaction, like my actual raw reaction of me freaking out and seeing it.
Yeah.
To finding that shed.
I mean, one thing too that I don't think a lot of people, especially when they get into shed hunting, don't realize is that you can check in the same area multiple times. Mm-hmm. And maybe just one of the times you're there, you'll find sheds because you got to hit it just right. If it's public land, there's people, moving in and out of there. And so you got to figure out almost the cycle of drops in your area. Like based on the weather patterns, a big cold snap could cause a bunch of them to fall.
Yeah, speaking of cold snap, supposed to get a snowstorm this Wednesday, and then it's supposed to be back up in the 60s next weekend.
See, like, as soon as that snow flies, one of the most important things that you can do is try to catch that last winter storm of the year. Reason being is you're going to find the deer where they're yarded up, where they're wintering out. This year's been a little bit weird, might be a little different, but mostly you can find those last areas where they're bedded up. And if you can kind of triangulate that with topo maps or looking at it on your GPS or the various apps that you have nowadays, you can kind of figure out where the fields are. You can look for the trails that are heading in the direction, and then trying to find like little areas where they might bed. I know here in Wisconsin, the way the winds are coming from the north, a lot of south-facing ridges are really popular this time of year for finding sheds because they'll lay up on them. It'll block the wind.
Yeah.
And then they'll be above the melting, so that way it's a dry side. It's also getting like full sun, whereas
nice
the other side of the ridge wouldn't, right? So a lot of times it'll be the first spot that's dried up. I like to start there. That's why I look on maps all the time to find these spots. Like today we were walking around and you went your direction and I went my direction, but my whole purpose was I wanted to walk up to that ridge line and then I wanted to walk all the way back to the last post of public because I wanted to see
like
how far it
analytical than I am. So like you more want to like the details and all that, or I'm like I found a trail, I'm going after it, and you're like no, I want to find like the boundary lines, I want to like scope this all out, I want to like you're way more like analytical than I am, and I'm just like bye.
Yeah, you'll find a nice trail and you'll just bird dog it.
Yeah.
I was trying to see, okay, what was I seeing on the maps that now I'm seeing now I'm on the ground? Like, how tall is the elevation I was seeing? I mean, you can look it up, but it's hard to really understand it till you're there. And I mean, they look like cattle trails, some of these deer trails we were seeing today,
Yeah.
which, full disclosure, like when you see those, a lot of times those are just frozen in from, late
Melting and
November
stuff.
when those got frozen in, and they're just thawing out now and they're not even fresh trails. Like, a lot of times it's hard to tell. You can kind of see if they're rounded off and that they were there a while, but sometimes you walk right over them and they don't even move, right? They're still frozen in place for months. They've been there just
look at the
waiting for
poop.
you. Right.
Like I look at the
Exactly.
poop and see if some of them have, like almost like spider webs over the top. Like that's like old poop.
Yeah. I mean, here's what shed hunting is, though, in a microcosm of it. It's miles enjoyed outdoors.
Seriously, if you don't like the outdoors,
Yeah.
if you can't spend hours out there and you can't find enjoyment, you're missing the whole purpose.
It's crazy because maybe there's some people that like listen to music and walk around. Literally, I like just being out there. I don't rock a speaker. I don't wear
No.
little headphones. I just don't do it. I'm almost walking around and you're almost like,
I don't think there's
Anybody
something
who
like
shed
wrong
hunts
with
too, like-
there's something like wrong with it that either though.
no,
Like listening
do
to a little
yourself,
bit of
yeah.
music and stuff like that. Like I feel like we just more so enjoy the quiet because like we're just always in the busy.
I don't go out there just to find sheds. I mean, yeah, it's great to find them, and yeah, you want to kind of put your science that you've created for yourself to work and see if you can find these. But a lot of times, these are places I've never been before, and like I'm scouting for deer season. I'm looking at the old sign from last fall. I'm looking at the trails where they lead. I'm thinking about prevalent wind directions, and I'm thinking, okay, if I was here and I wanted to be 30, 40 yards off this trail, what tree would I pick? And I'm starting to look, okay, where's the parallel buck trail to this main trail? Where are they moving? It's like, what food sources were out here last year? I'd like to walk out to the fields and see, okay, was it corn? Was it beans? Is it hay? Like, what is it? All of that matters, especially for the different times of year that the deer are going to be out there. And so I'm not just looking for bone when I'm walking around. Like, that's kind of like a prize for being out there and putting boot time in.
Mm-hmm.
But also I'm recording and taking GPS locations of like rubs and scrapes and main buck trails. If I cut a big track, I might walk it and I might turn on one of my apps that records the direction, because every time you find something like that, it's like a little piece of the puzzle that you may not have again. And if you don't toss a pin down or what, you might not find it again. Like, I know sometimes I've been so deep in the woods where I found something I was like, oh, this is the tree I could kill that buck from. Come back like 2-3 months later when the foliage has now bloomed. Everything's got leaves, grass grew
Yeah,
up.
it's like hard to find sometimes.
It's like, where was I?
Yeah.
Where
Whole
was I?
different world.
Yeah. Takes on a whole different look.
I would first ask like where are they gonna be going? Like are they gonna be going on their own private land or on public land? I think that's important to know, like where you're actually going, because that can also matter.
Well, here's the thing, right? Like, if they're going out to private land, how much do they own? 40 acres, 80 acres, 120 acres? Like, how much is it? And like, have they walked their whole property before? Do they know where the deer yards are?
What do you think
like,
the percentage of someone, like if they own 120 acres, do you really think that person has walked or scouted the whole 120 acres?
they're in my family, yes.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, every year.
Like farmers, they own lots of land.
There's
and then
public
they,
land here in Wisconsin, hundreds and hundreds of acres, and I walk it every year.
Yeah.
I mean, I literally walk Gardner from one side to another.
I would just like to like plop you down in the middle of some woods and be like, okay, now get out. Like I'll blindfold you and I'll walk you somewhere in
leave the
circles.
woods?
And I'm like, all right, now it's time for you to leave.
I mean,
Or in 1 hour, you need to find me the biggest like rub or like, just like a game or something for going in the woods.
oh, that'd be interesting. Like, go to a new piece of property.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'd start just like I would with anything. I would look at it from above, pull up some aerial topography, and start looking for those transition areas.
Yeah.
Fields up against heavy cover with water, and looking for anything that I think a big buck would use.
And I think maybe
where I'd
another
start.
good question would be is what is the goal too of going out in the woods? Is it really just to find a shed? Is it just to find a collection for your shed, for your dog, for making a lamp for your house, or is it to maybe in later in the season is it like for your bow hunting? Is it for like gun season? Like are you just out there just for recreational purposes? Like maybe there's some like couples that go out there or a guy who maybe he just likes finding the deer antlers, but maybe he's not like a hunter. Maybe he is a bow hunter. Maybe he is a gun hunter. Maybe there's just a person just want to do it for a recreational
Yeah,
thing, just to get out in the woods.
anytime in the field, though, you should literally try to get done as much as possible, because if you're chasing big bucks, and I'm not talking like a 3-year-old big buck, I'm talking like a monarch, like the ghost of the woods. You don't want to frequent the small core area that he might live in too much. Where they winter and they have deer yards can change, and that can push them, and you can skirt that pretty good. But there are just certain times of the year you shouldn't be, gallivanting through the woods.
On
There-
TikTok.
They're on TikTok. Oh my God, guys! No,
Look at
you
my
didn't.
boots.
Um,
I have a crazy thing that happened to me in the woods today. I want to get your perspective and opinion on.
okay.
So when I was walking through the woods, I hit a spot where everything kind of opened up, but on the corner of my eye, I saw a camera. And I'm on public land.
Yeah.
And it's like strapped around. There's like a bunch of tape. It looks sketchy. Like it's way up in the tree. I'm on public land. I'm by myself. Like you're a ways away from me, and like I don't know if that camera is like a satellite camera. Like if it's just like been there with the chip. Like I don't know. So like I feel like that's a dangerous situation for like a single woman. Maybe even for a man just walking through the woods. Like if that's a satellite thing, that person comes back like okay, like this girl, she's always in the woods. Like my dad always told me if you see a camera to kick that shit down because it's a public land and it shouldn't be there, and for your safety you should destroy it because you don't want someone knowing that you frequent that place or something like that.
Holy shit. Where to begin? That guy did not put that camera in that tree to hopefully catch some girl a mile deep in the fucking cedar swamp so he can go out there and get her. That's not what's
So
going on
I used to
there.
like walk my dog in the woods on public land.
Sure, but
But,
like
like-
his thought process was like, this looks like that spot where a girl's gonna end up with her
No,
dog.
he's not gonna say that.
It's literally
That's
back
not-
there for deer, bear, whatever you have in your area. That's what it's gonna be for. Now, elevated. This is like the new fad thing to do. It works. Makes it a little bit more difficult to, get that camera in and out of there. You gotta usually take like one stick to get up to it or two. But here's why it became so popular is because it's above the deer line of sight, right? So they got their head down. They might look up. They might even look up into like a tree stand.
So
but
just like spook
for the
them.
most part, if they're not smelling danger and they haven't heard danger, they're just gonna go down their trail. Well, if that flash is above them, like above their brow line, a lot of times it's not gonna spook them as one that's eye level pointed right at them, and they see that infrared go off.
Yeah.
I mean, they say that infrared technology and deer don't spook, but it's all bullshit. Like they do. A lot of times, like these older bucks, they'll know that cameras are there no matter what you do. Like as soon as you get them on camera and you know they're in the area, a lot of times the best thing you could do is back those cameras completely out of there. Almost like try to put them on the edges of areas, like fields where you're not going to hunt them. To keep track of when they're moving through. But like if you think you're going to have your satellite camera 30 yards from your stand, it's going to work out in your benefit. It's probably going to screw up your hunt more than it's ever going to help.
Remember when like we talked about like cameras and like having like a dummy one to like make other hunters think that maybe this is where the big bucks are, and then another one where actually the big bucks are? Like, you ever like heard that terminology in fishing where it's like a googan, like the guy who just fishes next to you because he thinks that you have like this secret spot?
Yeah, I mean, the weirdest part is there's not a lot of hunter integrity, at least to my recollection, since I've been hunting. I mean, people mess with your stands, your cameras, whatever. Like, everyone thinks that the deer that they're chasing is theirs. They found him. Oh my gosh, that guy's hunting next to me. Oh, you must have seen my stand, so he moved close. Like, on public land, literally, if you're the first one in a spot, it's yours.
Everyone wants to come around that spot then?
Yeah, no, but if you're hunting there first, like, you're supposed to. Like, even if I've hunted it for 2 weeks straight, but I come back that next day in the afternoon, there's some guy, I should allow him to continue to hunt. But that's like hunter ethics, and it doesn't always work out like that. There was a key component, though, to what you touched on before, and you said that there was like plastic wrap or something like tied up to the tree. What did you say?
Just a mess, just like tape.
So usually what that is somebody will take like a Ziploc bag and they'll put their name and contact information in there. So if it's found, or if somebody looks at it and thinks it's up to no good, like literally, I think legally you have to have it tagged like that. And so you could just pull that down, look at the piece of paper, it'll have all that information. You can contact them. Because what is he trying to do? He's just trying to say, hey, I'm playing by the rules. The camera's out there. It's been tagged. Please don't mess with my stuff. Like, just leave it alone. Don't steal it. Don't destroy it. It's not out there to find some girl and their dog a mile back in the swamp. It's to track whitetails. This guy, he painstakingly went out there and probably has a few cameras running, and this might be a major trail that feeds off into a bedding area that he likes, and he only hunts it maybe one time a year, or maybe hunts it every weekend, maybe he's a weekend, whatever it may be. He's got every right to run that camera. And I mean, I don't know about most guys, but I see a camera, I want to check out the area. No one's going to go through the trouble of putting a camera in an area if they don't think that deer are there, or it won't at least be there for a long time. So I note where the camera is. I scout the whole area out. If I find a tree stand, I know that's been preoccupied by another hunter. But if I don't, that's going to be a spot I'm going to start to look for sign. I'm going to look for trails that go off of that. I'm going to try to see if I can cut those deer off to that spot either direction, because like literally it's no different than finding a big buck rub. And when you're on public land like that, and if you see stands, or somebody obviously is keyed in on something that's going on in the area. And I'm not saying you should steal their spot or do any of that, but like, you should take notice of that area, because whatever the deer are doing in that area, it's what they're going to be doing in the woods in that area in general. So maybe they're more in the scrapes, and there's a bunch of scrapes around there. Now, that maybe there's not a lot of heavy rubs, but there's a lot of scrapes, or vice versa. Maybe the type of trees in the area aren't conducive to rubs. And so you're right. Or maybe it's just a travel corridor because there's no food sources. And so you'll end up figuring out things from that area that camera is that you wouldn't have known previously. Like, spend some time in it. It's not deer hunting season. Like, a lot of times when you're shed hunting, it's like that person hasn't been around. Maybe they've lost track of the camera. They got hurt, God forbid, but they couldn't get back, whatever it is. The thing's probably dead, out of batteries, unless it's got like a solar plate or something. Like,
So, like, I used to go scouting with my dad, and when we would be scouting, whenever we would see, like, little, like, tape in the trees or little tacks, my dad would, like, take them down.
Yeah, I mean, that's interesting. I mean, that's just hunter ethics again. Some asshole goes in behind you, and you've painstakingly done something to, mark your trail so you can get in safe and out safe. As crappy as it is when you walk on public land and you shine your infrared light or something and all you see is tacks going everywhere in the woods. It sucks, but it's part of hunting for some people. That's what they need to do to safely get in and out. Like, I don't want somebody getting lost in the woods and have that on my conscience. I'm sorry. I mean, other people can do what they want, and they could take those tacks down or pocket them.
Would the
or
DNR
whatever.
take those down? Has the DNR ever gone through?
I've never heard of anything like that. Like, they're concerned with a couple things. That your stand, at least in the state of Wisconsin, your stand is only out there during the season. That's tagged with your name and contact information. Same thing goes with your cameras. You want your name on them. Because at the end of the day, what they're looking for is if someone puts a stand in a illegal place or something, right? They can get a hold of you and hopefully warn you first, but like also hold you accountable because you should know where you're hunting, like that kind of stuff. Or if they think there's something on your camera, whatever, right? They can contact you. That's why all those got put there. And like my dad would say, like, a few ruined it for the many. Most of that stuff, it only happened because someone broke the law, someone did something they shouldn't have, someone hunted over a property line and shot a big deer that someone believed was theirs. You know what I mean? So, besides that, like, you can put those wherever you want, you know? Like, maybe the DNR would be a little weirded out if you were putting them on main trails and you were just, like, trying to catch pictures of people on public land just enjoying it. Like, that might be weird. Like, you're almost surveilling the people that are getting out of their cars. Like, there's no need for that kind of craziness. Maybe they would take offense to that, but it's public land. Like, literally, you could just sit there and take pictures of people as they roll up if you want. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
you can take pictures wherever you want on public land. There's no law necessarily against it. So,
I
middle
would
of
say like my
January.
dad's very protective over his
Yeah.
girl. Like if your
Why
daughter,
do they not want you to leave stands out though? Because they can get damaged. Like when the tree grows, right?
Yeah.
It can hurt the straps. Next thing you know, you're sitting in your tree stand, you fall out of it because you left your stand up there, wore down the straps, it buckled the tree. I don't know how many times you've seen old stands with me walking around. Mm-hmm. Just squeezing the tree, killing the tree. The stand's blowing apart. It's barely hanging on. Somebody put it up in the tree 10 years ago and just never went back and moved it. Now the chain is so tight on it, it's choking the tree. Like, nobody wants that, right?
Yeah.
So,
Like,
try to safety first kind of a thing.
people could do better. Seriously, if you're like in the woods and you're enjoying the woods and you want to shoot more big bucks, you gotta take care of the woods. You gotta take care of where it lives. Otherwise, you're not gonna get big bucks anymore. Like, I want to start bringing out like garbage bags with us because today
geez.
while we're walking through the woods, like I've seen multiple different like just random beer cans and water bottles and just random shit in the middle of the woods. Like, those deer are not gonna stay there anymore if it's like crappy. If people are gonna go and litter and just do terrible things to the woods, like.
Well, and the one thing I would say too is some of that just blows in, right? Like in those rural areas, like it gets pretty windy. Across those fields that are barren this
Sure.
time of year, stuff can blow in. Like it's not necessarily always
Sure.
people walking around, but
Hunters could do a
Yeah.
good job of
yeah.
keeping the woods
most
clean.
hunters I know aren't just walking around and throwing
Especially
stuff.
hunters.
It's usually like the non-hunters, the people that are around, right? For some reason they have a wrapper and then they just toss it. Like big city kids have it's way different. Like when I moved to Madison for the first time, it really tripped me out how many times I would just be walking around. Like you'd see a kid like eat a Snickers bar, but that wrapper, there's a receptacle 20 feet away and that thing just gets tossed and they have this expectation of everyone cleaning up for them in a city. It's weird. And I don't know, I didn't grow up that way.
No.
My dad wouldn't have let that slide. We wouldn't have been out in the woods for a while if we just started tossing wrappers on the ground.
Ooh-wee.
Yeah.
You'd be having to chop wood.
Yeah, we'd be face quarter word boys. Here we go.
Yeah.
And learn
All
today.
of you.
Yeah, that's right. My dad was always about hard work, but everything came down to integrity. So when I speak hunter ethics, it matters because hunting's under attack. Everybody thinks it's animal cruelty. They eat their beef. They're just not the one that slaughtered it or killed it. And,
I mean, vegans.
they attack
though.
us as hunters. They say that we shouldn't do it, or we're like these different people. Like you're killing animals. It's like I don't understand it. You know what I mean? Like
I helped a vegan actually transition back to eating meat because she believed
what
in
does that
that.
look like?
She believed that the animals like were, gotta save the animals, they're getting
Yeah.
mistreated. And I talked to her, I was like, why don't you go down to a local organic farmer, see how the animals are being raised, and then rethink your situation right there, because you actually need those animal proteins. You actually need those meat. Like, go down to that local chicken farmer. And she actually came back to me and she's like, I actually did it. And I went and saw where the chickens were living, and she's like, I'm gonna slowly bring back in. I'm gonna do chicken first.
Yeah, I mean,
Like, go see, go look at it. Go find someone who actually like trust is gonna take care of those animals, feed them, do all the right things that you actually want them to do, because we need protein, we need animal sources. Like, there's a lot of doctors out there that say women can't have enough protein in their diets and you can't get enough from a plant source. Like, you would need way too much, and you'd probably need a supplement, especially if you're living in Wisconsin.
I mean, I guess I don't know a lot about that. My thought on it is,
But then people also can talk about like the deer, they're eating the corn, and the corn could be like GMO corn. But I know you have opinion on the GMOs because like your brother and working at the farm, at the seeds. But there is a thing on that too, of if the deer are eating the pesticides then right on the fields too.
if I start worrying that my big buck has eaten the wrong corn that year and I can't enjoy his back straps, I'll probably just quit hunting. Because, like, to me, that shit doesn't matter. Like, yeah, they eat corn, but for how many months a year? What does that really do? Like, can you prove that corn was sprayed and it transitioned anything into those
Yeah.
deer? And I mean,
And like
come on,
most
like, we deal
hunters,
with,
like I
like-
think I'm a little bit more extreme when it comes to that as well, just because of like my background.
Yeah.
But like most guys who are walking out to the field probably just smoked a cigarette or just drank a Diet Coke, like
bring one to the stand with them.
yeah, or drink a beer with in the stand. Like, so
I hope they're not drinking beer in the stand.
I've heard guys talk about that, but also like my form of deer hunters, what I knew before you, were a lot different. So like you got these deer hunters that would only just go for the rifle season, and they'd do deer camp during opening weekend, but there wasn't much deer hunting. It was more like we're making food, we're going out to the bars, and then it's not even
Yeah,
better.
that's not a thing.
It's not even good for the women who are staying back, because then like what do the women do? It's like widows weekend, and it's like, so their guys are just up north with the strippers at the bar, and then the girls are down back where they are in the city with the widows weekend. So like I've always thought like of hunting as like a kind of like a toxic thing for relationships when it comes to like that. But I knew it was always like an important thing. Like I wanted to get into it, but I didn't like that. But I never understood that there was a whole
Craziness.
different side of it until I met you.
Oh, well, I mean, that's never been a thing. I don't know what families grow up and that becomes a thing, but I would never pass that down to my son. I would never pass that down to my daughter. I would never pass that down to any youth.
I think that's why you don't
that I
see a lot
hunted
of women hunters up here, because of this whole stigma that's around the hunting like this.
Literally talking about the Orange Army and the
Guys don't want women going hunting with them in the opening
type of
weekend
fraternity that comes with the being part of the
because
Orange
they need a
Army,
guys
yeah.
weekend, and they need to go and have the guys stuff, and they need to go to the strip clubs, and they need to go and have like their food and all this shit. Like, it's literally them just getting drunk and not wanting to be
Oh, yeah.
with the women for one weekend out of the year, and they just say that we're deer hunting.
You get a bunch of insecure beta men together who want to go out and get way too intoxicated. They're not really there to hunt. If they hunt and they happen to have a horseshoe up their butt,
They shouldn't even be allowed to. They shouldn't even be allowed to hunt because they probably drank way too much. By the time they wake up in the morning
when they're going out to the woods.
they probably
Yeah.
stink.
Well, yeah, of course.
Probably
But
puking
we're
in the
talking about
stand.
behavior more than we are like their
How are you gonna deer
success
hunt?
level.
You're gonna blow all the deer towards you. I don't know. It's just
One of the scariest
grinds
times
my
I ever had
gears.
in the woods. I was hunting and I had left in the middle of the morning. Mom had called and she needed one of us boys to go in anyway. So I roll in. I'm trying to get in and out of there as quick as possible, find out what she needs. And let's say I'm there like half hour tops. I mean, left my outer layers outside, but like just walked in my bottom couple layers, help Mom out. Head back out to the woods. And I get back out to the woods. There's a car I'd never seen before. I walk into the woods about a half mile, and there's a tent on top of a ridge. Never seen it before. Wasn't there in the morning. Walk over to it, and on the inside of it is 3 empty cans of beer. So I'm like, I was gone like maybe an hour with drive time, walking in, everything.
Yeah.
Somehow this tent got set up and got beers drank in it. I walk back out, the car's gone. I didn't think to grab the license plate on the way in. I just figured, somebody from out of town stopped up. It's going for a walk because it kind of looks like a public trail going into my woods, and it happens. It's clearly marked, but it still happens. And it ended up being one of the neighbor's son-in-laws who was in town. He had put the GPS property coordinates in. He missed by about a quarter mile. He's on the right road. He just missed the property he was supposed to be on. And then, so I called around, and when I found out that it was this, I was trying to figure out, hey, let him know. But then I was like, hey, just so you know, your son-in-law had like been drinking beers, like not just not on your property, but on my property, trespassing, drinking, which is illegal. It's gun season. And it's like, shouldn't happen. And the comment I got back was, he's the black sheep of the family, but he blew it off as just like, almost expected. It's gun season. Come in, bring a couple beers out with you.
Yeah.
Slap them back till the end of the day. Literally insane stuff. And
like you tried to help. You tried to like say, hey, like we need like make this better.
Yeah.
Let's do better here.
Let's just say the DNR got called. They came and confiscated that tent with the beer cans. And when the gentleman was like, well, can I come out and get my tent? Well, yeah, you can. Here's the number you can get a hold of to get it
Seriously,
back.
if you...
Just so you know, it's the DNR you're going to be calling. And you're going to have to talk about why the beer cans were in there. Now, they're not be able to prove that you drank them or you were hunting with them or any of that. But you're going to have to... Of course, he never called to got his tent back because that gentleman needs some accountability. He's the type of guy that's going to shoot somebody someday or shoot himself or... mistake this deer for that or shoot across the property line. Like, if you're willing to drink and hunt, I'm sorry, you need to face some accountability.
It should take away your privileges of owning a gun. Seriously,
yeah, I mean,
you're gonna go and break that rule like that? Like, you can't put down a beer to go sit in the woods to deer hunt? Like, go sit in the tavern. Go sit out in your backyard and drink a beer and sit outside. Like, don't go and try to, like, ruin it and, like, hurt other people because you're being stupid. It's like getting in your car after you're drinking and driving. Like, that's dumb. What the... They should be taking away some kind of privileges there if you're going to ruin it.
There's a problem in general with gun season, I think, in the mentality of people who are coming from out of town. They're weekend warriors at best. Maybe this is the only time of year they hunt. And at a very young age, they saw the men above them drinking and partying, and now it became a thing. Or they went to somebody's house one time and they had a chili cook-off and everybody drank the night before too much, and then it just perpetuated and got worse and worse. Whatever it is. It almost becomes part of your like own heritage when it comes to hunting, but the acceptability of it in some of the small towns is pretty ridiculous. To me, it's like disappointing to hear from a woman's perspective in the state of Wisconsin that that's what you thought it was. You didn't want to get involved in it because
we weren't even allowed to get involved with it.
Associated with up to that point that hunted, because I don't think I've ever once thought, wow, I can't wait to get deer camp and go to a strip club. Like, I'm too focused on all the cameras, the wind direction. I'm literally trying to shoot a monster deer. I'm trying to shoot backstraps for the cooler. Like, it's all based on family and having dinners at the end of the night. Like, I get it. Sometimes deer camp gets
So the
boring
first
and you
time,
want to go out early and you want to play some pool and you have a couple beers. Like, that's normal behavior, I think, in Wisconsin, right? But to go out and just get blasted, or to have like it ingrained in the whole reason for deer camp is to get shit faced, you're doing it for the wrong reasons. It's the reason why deer hunting is under attack. It's like my dad would say, a few ruin it for the many. That's just part of it.
the first time I went deer hunting, we went scouting like a week or two prior in the woods, and then the night before, like 2 days before, I was just told I need to put my deer like hunting clothes just hanging outside, and that was the only like scent safe.
This was not with me.
No, it was not with you. That was the only scent safe like.
We would never be in the woods like a week before trying to figure something out.
And then the morning of, because there was too much drinking happening the night before,
Didn't go out in the morning.
I only went.
How did you go alone?
Well, my dad actually showed up, but
Okay.
he went his opposite way, and then he walked me to where I was. We made like a ground blind for myself, and then my dad just like, it was like dark out. He walked me to where I was gonna be sitting on the ground, and then he went and walked to his spot. But like, I sat in the dark for the first time ever,
All by yourself?
all by myself,
It's craziness.
holding.
State of Wisconsin also has a mentorship, right? Legally, you have to mentor somebody for a full year before they can hunt on their own. Now, your dad may have had you in visual sight, which made it illegal, but I don't think I've ever mentored somebody and ever let them in a stand by themselves alone that whole first year.
And I was carrying an AR.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Everyone has a right to hunt however they want, use whatever equipment they want as long as it's within the legal rights.
I went and sat in the morning and I sat in the night. You'd been really proud. You'd been like stoked if you would have like known me years ago and like my passion and my drive to do it. Like, even though the person who I was supposed to go with over a drink and didn't go, I still went. Like,
That's craziness. It's pure craziness. It's for you to be put in a stand by yourself is completely dangerous. Shame on everybody that was involved in that. Your mentor should have been with you. It's why people get killed in the woods.
I wouldn't have pulled the trigger though. Like, I wouldn't have done.
It's just wrong, you know.
I like thought it was like super cool to be on the woods and watching the woods wake up in the morning.
Yeah, I mean,
Like,
I
I
guess-
would show you my ground blind's probably still there. If I were to show you that, you'd been like, "What the shit, Miranda?"
the closest I think I can say that anything like that happened, Lucas had been hunting with us for a couple of years, like sitting out with us. He's like 8 years old or something. No license, no nothing. Just out there with us while we're hunting. And he wanted to be put on his own stand with a camera. It was during bow season. And wanted to sit in like a climber and just sit on a deer trail. And if a deer came by, his whole goal was to get a picture of a deer. He really thought he could do it. He had sat and he had tried to take a picture of a couple deer, and I can't remember if he got any good ones or if they're all blurry or whatever, but what he didn't calculate for was it getting dark. And he didn't calculate, and we didn't communicate to him effectively that we were going to sit till dark and then walk over. And like when I say dark, I'm talking dark. And so, that blue-gray came, and I think Luke, as a young man, thought, okay, my brother's going to be coming soon. But when we didn't and it was completely dark, he had some like raccoon family that was in the next cedar over or whatever. They decided to get down
Oh no!
out of their tree, and that scurrying down the tree like literally freaked him out. The raccoons running across the ground, I mean, literally, it must have bubbled over, but he lost it. We were like, walking down the ridge, a couple hundred yards from him. Matt and I just talking about the bucks and the does and whatnot we had saw on the trails, and we just hear this wailing, like our names being yelled at the top of the lungs from an 8-year-old boy. And so we start running towards him, thinking, something happened to the climber when he's getting down or whatever. I mean, he's proficient at it. We've been doing it now since he was like 6. And get over to him, and he just starts telling us there's things running all around. He had never experienced it. And the funny part about it is it literally happens every time we're in the woods, where the woods kind of comes alive right at dark. But he was always with us. He had that comfort of knowing he's with us. And maybe we're having dialogue while we're leaving the woods, but there's many times we're going to kick up rodents and animals that are moving around that weren't moving around in the daytime. And he just, because it was so quiet, he was all by himself. It freaked him out pretty good. Yeah. Walking out to the truck, probably got a couple hundred yards from the truck, and the neighbor had heard him and like walked over and met us at the truck to make sure, the boys were okay. And yeah, we're fine. Just left our little brother on the stand with a camera, and he got a little carried away and a little scared.
The second time I went out, they put me in a different spot.
Did they leave you by yourself again?
Yeah. And I feel like I was just like sitting. Oh, I had one of those little like camel chairs, like the little fold up ones. I had that with me, and they just plopped me down in the middle of the thing. And like I was like a little bit higher, like on a ridge, or maybe it was like back up against a tree or something. But I'm looking down, and there's an old man walking the ridge, just carrying a gun. And I just like, hello, just like waved. And he waved back. That was it.
Wow.
But public land.
Well, I know they didn't put you in too deep, just right off the trail so they can find you on the way back. Miranda, this is the best spot in the woods. Trust me.
Well, I was in that woods so much.
Yeah.
Like that was like, I knew that woods back of my hands. Like I just like plopped me in it.
What kind of gun were you using?
AR.
First gun I ever used was
I still have pictures of me holding it.
For real?
Yeah, it's in my Snapchat.
My first gun was a 20 gauge Slayer barrel. Blow your damn shoulder off.
Yeah, this AR is wonderful. Like
Pop. Can't feel nothing.
Can't feel shit.
Scary. And then shortly after I had that 20 gauge, my grandfather gifted me his 308. That's what I use today. Been using it ever since. It's gone everywhere with me.
That black one?
What's that?
Is it black? No.
No.
Have I seen this?
Yes.
Why should you pass up 2-pointers? Or no, 2-year-olds. No, why? Okay, the question is
2-pointers.
2-year-olds.
Like, are we talking about like spikes?
Yeah, seriously, fuckers.
Why should you pass up
Okay,
spikes?
seriously, I don't understand why people shoot spikes, shoot little ones, and like talk to them through about like the reward of waiting and how the growth goes from little to monster in just such a short period of time, and how more people should like do that.
Okay, so first of all,
is that the kind of question you want me to ask?
Yeah, I'm a hunter or integrity ethics guy. Like, I don't care. You want to go out and you want to shoot the first
it
thing
annoys
that
me
you see,
so
and you want to
much.
put meat in the cooler.
I do not like seeing guys who
I don't
shoot
care
little
because
deers.
those people that are out there just to shoot something right away, they're in and out of the woods and out of my hair. Okay, so good for them. You shoot something the first day, get out of here. Perfect. That's what you like. Give her. I'm all for it. Let it rip. Those are also the people that aren't going to go a mile back in the woods. They're just going to sit on a crop line or on a field line or something. They're going to shoot something. They just want to shoot like an immature deer and just put it in the cooler, whatever. Some people make the mistake. They don't, it's fading light or light coming up in the morning, and they think they're seeing a doe, but in reality it's, a spike buck. Some people think the genetics are bad on spikes and you should take them out and cull them. There's a million reasons why people shoot 2-pointers, spikes.
Okay, maybe if it's like a kid and it's their like youth hunt or something like that, like they want to like shoot a deer.
Any youth hunter that
maybe
hunts with me for the first time, anything he wants to shoot, as long as it's not like a fawn spots and it's legal, let it rip, man. Like,
but like also like explaining like
of course, if he wants to know
the patience. Like I
what a
don't
good
think
deer
people
is,
have patience anymore. Like
yeah, if we're
to
expected to see a bunch of good deer that day, sometimes you gotta tell these young guys like, hey, we get you a better deer for your first one. If you wait, you don't need to shoot this spike.
I wish
think
people
what
had
you're-
more patience to get the best
Yeah.
instead of just shooting whatever they want.
Right, but I think your
Do
question.
you really think that you need
Why don't you
food?
shoot 2-year-olds? I think is what you were trying to ask me, but you said 2-pointers,
Yeah,
which
yeah.
was very cute. So
Like I think people like I don't know. They think they think that they need food, but I don't think people really are starving. Like what back in the day when like you were a kid growing up, it was a different story
yeah,
than
we were
right-
shooting meat.
Yeah, because you guys needed it
Yeah.
for like the family. But like
Yeah.
now you got like different government programs and stuff like that, like to put food on the table. And food on the table now is different than it was like
Who cares about all that?
I don't know. I just like a little bit more of
Here's the thing. You asked me a question. Why do I pass up 2-year-olds?
yeah.
I've outgrown the stage of just wanting to shoot deer. I got really good at it. Like really good at it. Like moving on a deer and actually harvesting a deer. My brothers and I, we perfected that science. Long time ago. We were like 12, 13, 14 years old. We got to the point where you're not getting by if we don't want you to get by. And we started to realize, well, once you get to that 3-year-old, 4-year-old, 5-year-old deer, it gets harder. You have less time. I like to call a 5-second rule. I've been telling my brothers this for years. The biggest bucks you're ever going to see, like bullwinkle or any of these bigger deer, you got them for about 5 seconds. They don't make a lot of mistakes. They've been hunted from above, below. They know when predators are around. You got to be scent safe. You can't make mistakes because they'll be gone forever. There's just this like genuine pride that comes along with taking a monarch that I just absolutely love. And maybe some people really just want to shoot 140 class deer, 3 and 4-year-olds their whole life, and that's just what they want to do. But I like chasing ghosts. I'd rather eat my tag and shoot some does than to shoot a 3-year-old. And maybe it's from being an athlete my whole life, playing in college, and that winning, right? Like, how many people do you know that say they're a deer hunter and they hunt the same stand every year, and lightning struck once or twice that stand and it's the big buck stand, and they talk about it and everyone draws straws and they want this one stand and that's what they want, and but like there's many years where no one shoots a good one out of there,
Yeah.
but when they do, it's only this one stand because that's really the travel quarter. Yada yada, all this craziness, right? What if every year you're finding deer in January, February, where they're bedding up, where their deer yards are, and you go back as the snow is melting away and you find sheds, and one of them looks to be like a 4 or 5-year-old, and so you mark that location. And as the season progresses and you're starting to track these deer, you got cameras running and you're starting to see these deer moving from a pattern from bedding to feeding, and you know the trails that they're going to be on, down to this is where he's at this time. Okay, it's daylight, he's here, he's vulnerable, opening day. And you like get him to a point where you have it so figured out. I don't know how many times I've been told, well, you and your family are so lucky. No, it's like we spend so much time. Oh, it's cheating using cameras. Do you know how hard it is to run cameras? Like, everybody, okay, you put some satellites out there. It's not hard to check your cameras. No. If you just put out satellites and then you're just leaving them all year round and you're hoping that a deer goes by, like, we literally move them around. We literally use them to find the deer and move them through. And, like, when we're going in the woods, we're going out completely scent safe. I mean, this...
I remember when I went with you.
Why don't I shoot 2-year-olds?
Yeah.
Because I wouldn't be able to enjoy everything that comes with deer hunting to the degree that I do. If all I needed to do is shoot a 2-year-old, I could literally smoke a cigarette, walk into the woods, sit in a random tree and shoot one on a corn side almost the first time in every year.
So true. That's literally the guys who shoot those deer.
I mean, that's what they do. The weird part is that some of those guys will wait around to the last week of October, and then they'll just go sit where they're seeing bucks come out. But these bucks are 2 and 3 year olds, and they're not really sense safe, and they shoot these young deer. They think they've done something, and that's great. They can do that, but when you
We're just gonna roast you.
yeah,
We're just gonna give you some shit.
well, here's the weird part too, right? Like if you get lucky enough
Yeah.
and you have a deer, like let's say you own a 40, 50, 100, whatever. Shit, Matt owns 15. If you can grow a deer, like it's consistently on your property, you're seeing them over years and you've got multiple sheds from them. That's where this whole concept of I own this deer, I've been growing this deer. This deer is a wild animal, it can go wherever it wants, but because you have history with it, you believe it's yours.
Well, it's like you walking through the woods and you're like chopping down sticks and walk right through here, big buck.
A lot of that, what it comes down to though, is opportunity. When you shoot a 2-year-old, you don't need to spend that much time. Sometimes big bucks, like when I shot Bullwinkle, I chased him for 4.5 years, and it wasn't that we didn't see him on our feet or that we didn't have a chance at him. We're always in the woods, we'd always see him, but man, he only moved like that first 5 to 10 minutes, and then he'd bed down the rest of the day. It was a very short area. His core area ended up being like 8 acres. But to get in and out of there and not spook him, you had to have like all the right conditions. Like just enough wind or it would hide you walking in. Had to be going the right direction. Had to be the right time of year. The food source had to be right. Like there's so much that had to happen. Like hanging the set in the middle of the night during a pouring rainstorm. So that way you didn't do it when it was like quiet in the morning, walking in. Like so many things go into it, and like part of that chess, part of that struggle, that's like part of the story. It's part of why I do it. It's, to me, it's the addiction.
Do you think next time we talk, you should talk about the Bullwinkle story?
Yeah, maybe.
The ghost story of
Yeah.
the famous Bullwinkle, the 4-year chase.
Yeah. 4-year chase. It was worth
The
it.
midnight walks, the walks with no shoes,
Yes.
the miles, the sleepless nights, the let's drive 12 hours to get back to Green Bay because I need to get this buck.
Yeah, that
Like
one,
this
that
crazy
one
story.
season I was filming for Fox. We're doing football or basketball or hockey for the Badgers. I don't know, one of those. Maybe that's what it was. It was Badger hockey. And I drove back. And by the time I got home, it's 2 a.m. and I'm going to go out at 3:30. So I stay up,
Yeah, I
drink
think
an energy drink,
this is gotta be a
start plotting my direction in, looking at wind direction, which way am I going to go in. I might as well just leave an extra hour early. Why? Don't have to use a flashlight. I'll just take my time. I'll use the moonlight.
daylight savings. Oops.
Yeah.
I'm here an hour later.
But there's been many deer like this. Harvey was one like that. Mr. Perfect was like that. Matt's 13-pointer was like that. Crab Claw was like that. The Big Swamp 10 was like that. I mean, in a lot of ways, that buck was like that. Can't see him, but big old Kansas whitetail. These deer, they all have histories. They all have names. They all have stories. And when you immerse yourself into hunting, they become part of your life because, like I always say, deer season never ends. It just changes. It just becomes something different for a while. Even when you're not hunting them or can harvest them, it's part of it. It's like part of the legacy of actually being a whitetail hunter, is understanding that the season is year round, and what it takes to shoot monarchs isn't just a luck of the draw.
And like right now, like all the gear like on Amazon, like you get heated vests 40% off right now.
Like, we're talking about like Oro vests and stuff like that.
Yeah, and like right now would be the time to start planning ahead for your deer hunting season. Like okay,
that was a hot take right there. We went from talking about trophy deer and
do you have
part of your
Bullwinkles?
life to, hey, you know what, they have heated vests out there.
I know this is like no, this is part of like the deer season never ends. Is that right now we're actually talking about the deer season. We're shed hunting, and then like we're preparing for the upcoming deer season. So like right now is the time where you like stock up on buying products. Like right now you can buy heated vests for 40% off.
Yeah.
On
Off
Amazon.
season, it's
So like off season is still part of your hunting season never ends.
Yeah, that's not what I talk. I get what she's saying, but like deer hunting never ends for me because you want to locate them where they are.
This
You
is
want
the
to find
same
the sheds,
diff. This is the
GPS
same
locate
diff.
it,
Like
find out.
just because you're like a little bit more like
Yeah, you're talking about
analytical.
gear up in the off season.
yes, this is like a woman's
A woman
mindset.
talking about shopping. Guys talking about finding the fucking deer.
Shut up.
This is the difference.
Literally, I don't have like really good gear, so that's why.
Yeah.
I need better gear. So I'm trying to plan
The
ahead.
whole thing about preparing for the woods you're going to be in.
Yeah, because I'm cold all the time, like a grandma.
Yeah.
Thank you for tuning in to the podcast. We'll see you next week.